its own way.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of Chatting with Lady C. Hello, Mum, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, honey. How are you?
I'm very well too.
I have to say, I'm thoroughly enjoying Celebs on the Farm.
Yes.
Were you proud of me that I won a rosette?
I thought the episode before it was either you or Harry that was going to win the rosette. He won it. And I think this time it was probably better that you won it on this challenge, is because like what Farmer Chris said. Why are you running after the animals? Running after the animals is only going to like push them from running faster away from you and scaring them away. And like if they had just listened to you, like what the other team did, because unfortunately the other team saw what everybody did, so they could do it a lot faster and easier.
Yes.
That's the only reason they won.
Yeah. We're speaking about a challenge where we had to herd pigs into pens, and I was supposed to be the team leader.
Yeah.
And so they were supposed to listen to me and do what I said. And had they listened to me, as Farmer Chris said, and done what I said, we would have succeeded because we got 6. And
in the end, yes, there were 6.
And the others got 7. However, we would have got many more, but they just refused to listen to me. You know, they thought they knew better. I won a rosette, not only for that, but for my skills in dry stone walling.
Oh yes, I forgot that bit, yes.
Dry stone walls are walls that are built with stone, basically just stone, and a little bit of gravel to fill in, but no cement and nothing like that. And Hadrian's Wall, which is the famous wall that's in Roman times separated England from Scotland. Not that they were actually called England and Scotland in those days. And you still have the residue of it. Yes. That's a stone wall. And of course in Jamaica, all of the estates and the countryside properties had stone walls built in the days of slavery, and they still exist. Because stone walls are just built to last for centuries. And in fact, if you go off Hadrian's Wall, for millennia, because Hadrian's Wall is nearly 2,000 years old. So anyway, I was given a rosette and I'm absolutely chuffed. I was so surprised as well. Did you see my comment? I said, it can't be possible. I couldn't believe I'd won. Anyway, honey, I suppose to all of those who have no interest in it, this will become very tiresome. So let me stop exulting in my victory and let's move on to something of more interest to everybody else.
No worries. So we're going to start off with our questions today. So our first question is from Heather Tyler. Not a royal question, but have you seen the new Britney Spears documentary? And what do you think of the hashtag Free Britney Spears campaign?
I have not seen it. Have you?
No, I didn't even know it until this question, to be honest.
I have not seen it, and I don't think I want to see it because I think I'd find the whole thing too distressing for words. Because obviously, you know, Britney Spears has serious mental and psychological problems. Her father has been her conservator for, I think, about a decade now, which she evidently has been chafing at the bit about. Well, you can get that. I read a book many years ago called Will There Really Be a Morning? It was arguably the most moving autobiography I have ever read. I read it in 1973. It was written by a very famous 40s actress called Frances Farmer, who had what they thought were serious mental problems, but in fact she was simply an aggressive drunk. And she fell foul of her mother, who had her committed to an insane asylum, and I think they forgot about her for about 20 years. Can you imagine? I mean, it's the most horrendous story. She was also lobotomized. When they finally, somebody remembered that she existed, and she was released because she had never been insane. She had a TV program, and she was, in a minor way, back to being a success. But of course, her life had been completely ruined by being committed to an insane asylum for about 20 years. And I found that so distressing that I wouldn't want to look at anything to do with Britney Spears and her problems, because there's nothing I can do to help. And I don't think that I actually understand, and I don't think any of us will necessarily understand what's going on. Is her father the monster in quotes that she's trying to make out, or is he just a very concerned father and she's seriously disordered? Who knows? Who knows? I certainly don't know, and I don't pretend to know. And the truth is, I don't really want to get sucked into something that is so distressing. If her father has her best interests at heart, and it is quite possible and maybe even likely that he does, and it's also not only possible and likely, but understandable that an adult, whether disordered or not, would resent the control that a parent has over him or her when they are well into adulthood. So I understand both ways, but if Britney Spears is not sufficiently capable of being her own conservator, and her father has her best interests at heart, I would actually understand why he wants to remain her conservator. Because, I mean, if she ends up with another conservator, she can be wiped out financially and in every other way. At least with her father's ministrations, she has been able to maintain her career. But I don't really know the ins and outs of it. And the truth is, I don't want to know the ins and outs of it. You know, having had a mentally disordered mother, I really don't want to get sucked into that sort of maelstrom. So I think, next question, honey.
No worries. So for our next question today is from N. Russell. Lady C, I'd love to know your health secrets. You always look so well and vital. Do you have routines you live by? Diet, sleep, staying joyful? Please share.
Ah, isn't that a lovely question?
Yes.
It is,
It's
isn't
very
it?
nice.
Well, yes, I suppose I do have routines. I used to meditate, transcendental meditation, twice a day, every day. I now do it only once in the morning when I get up, and I have never missed a morning since I started doing it in the mid to late 70s. I no longer do it in the late afternoon, early evening, which I used to between 5 and 7. For some reason, I just don't feel the need anymore. Well, when I was younger, I did feel the need to, because Transcendental meditation, if used as a relaxation technique, shorn of all of the hocus pocus that they would like to invest in it. It's one of the most brilliant relaxation techniques in the world. It has proven scientific benefits. It lowers your blood pressure. It balances the alpha and beta sides of the brain. It increases circulation. It's got so many benefits that I would recommend it to anybody and everybody. Uncle Mickey is the person who turned me on to transcendental meditation. And I think I do not know that I could actually have survived my life without TM, really. And I'd say that not as an exaggeration, but to show to what extent it benefited me health-wise. I eat sensibly. I do not have fad diets. In fact, I don't diet at all, as you know. I am very lucky that I was naturally slender, and I've got a very good metabolism. I eat sensibly, and I do not eat fashionably. I have breakfast is a boiled egg, 2 oranges juiced, and some form of tisane, because it's not really tea, because I don't really drink tea or coffee normally.
It's a decaf tea, basically.
Well, it's more something like mint tea or, any
Infused tea.
Infusions,
That's
sort
the
of
one,
things, yeah. And what I often do is just use a little bit of Ribena in a lot of water, and that's what I have. So that's breakfast. Lunch is usually a sandwich. My stocks in trade are tuna, which I do with a bit of mayonnaise and salt and black pepper.
And a lot of people don't actually know just even that canned tuna has so much protein in it. So much, so it's actually really good for you.
Yes, it is. Then I also do my Jamaican style version of our souped up corned beef. And if I get packages of pastrami, I use those. I used up the ham after Christmas and had ham for a month, ham sandwiches, which I do with piccalilli, mustard piccalilli, because you spread it on the bread. So I have a sandwich, one sandwich, and fruit, mangoes, apple, maybe a mango or an apple. I try to eat an apple a day, and I also often eat a banana a day. So anyway, I'll have a piece of fruit, and that's it. If I'm peckish, I'll have tea. Tea, again, is not really tea, but I'll have at tea time, I'll have 2 small slices of cake and tea. Then for dinner, I will have, pheasant and rice and vegetables. I believe in 1 meat, 1 veg, 1 starch. So I'll either have rice or I will have a potato, which I will do in the jacket, a jacket potato with a bit of salt, black pepper and butter. And vegetables, normally haricot vert or broccoli, sometimes carrots, courgettes. So yes, my specialty, courgettes and tomatoes chopped up and just, delicious. With then some more fruit and biscuits and cheese, and I have 4 water biscuits and 3 types of cheese. At the moment, cheddar, 2 cheddars, 1 brie, and 1 Stilton. And that's it. So I eat like a horse, and I should be much fatter than I am, but also I'm physically active. I think attitude is very important in life. I am physically active. I do not actually exercise in terms of calisthenics or gymnastics and all of that stuff. I'm too busy up and down. I get enough exercise, but maybe not enough, but I'm lazy. Sorry, I'm lazy. I've never liked exercise. I absolutely loathe exercising, if the truth be known. So that's my excuse. It's not a very good one, and I would profit from a bit more, but I'm so physically active that it's okay. I'm practically never ill, and I have a very good attitude, which is I embrace life. I have had a very difficult life. I have survived it, and I have survived it and been intact and retained my ability to be joyous and to love life. Basil Panzer, my therapist, used to say, you were just born lucky. He said, you were born with a wonderful capacity for life. He said, and that is your innate personality. And I think he's right, because no matter what has happened, I have always wanted to enjoy life. And I have always wanted to have a good life and be a good person and to benefit spiritually, emotionally, and in worldly terms, meaning life terms, not financially, from the experiences of my life, because I believe in the philosophy of alchemy, that the philosopher's stone, alchemy is something that was misunderstood throughout the centuries, where they thought that you could literally turn base metal into gold. I think philosophical alchemy is the secret to life, that no matter what happens to you, you will ultimately be able to turn the base metal of that experience into gold if you have the right attitude. And I'm referring to the coinage of life, not the coinage of money. And that's been my attitude all my life. And I have seen from my mother's experience how a bad attitude destroys you. And, no matter what Mummy got, it was never enough. She embraced misery and then wondered, having embraced it, and resentment. She was always resentful and always looking at the negatives. I mean, we all have a choice in life. We can count our blessings or count what we lack. And those who count what they lack spend the time tallying destructively, while those who count what they should be grateful for and then use that to move on to the next stage will end up counting happiness, fulfillment, joyousness, and the ability to enjoy life when it is enjoyable. And it has to be said, life is not always enjoyable, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I do not always enjoy life, because when bad things happen, I
You can't enjoy them, can you?
You can't. And I do not believe in deluding myself
Exactly.
and lying to myself and saying, you know, I believe that you should experience what you are experiencing and move on from it and somehow derive a spiritual benefit. So life has taught me, because I'm lucky, sorry, I shouldn't actually chop and change. Life has taught me that it is up to each of us what we want to make of our life, because each of us is given blessings, benefits, failings, and unfortunate experiences. And it's up to each of us what we make of our life and what we make of ourselves, because we need to develop ourselves in such a way that we benefit from the existence of life. I also actually believe that we are souls on a journey, certainly through this life and possibly through eternal life. I actually think more than likely eternal life. And I think we are saddled with ourselves no matter what. So we may as well lighten the load by getting it right to the extent that we have as good and as happy and as fulfilled a life as possible. I do not want to be on my deathbed and look at my life and think, my God, I wasted it. And I was caught up in stupid struggles and resentments and, and delusional rubbish. I don't want to also lie to myself. I want to be able to look back at my life and think, I did the best I could and I benefited myself and anybody who came into my orbit who deserved the benefits. And those who didn't have also experienced the fact that in life, if you play the game of life properly, just as how you embrace and elevate those who are life enhancing, you push away those who are not, to the extent that they deserve to be pushed away. And I think that's it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that seems more and more or less like you, to be honest. So yeah.
So that's the answer. I hope it has been of some help.
I mean, it's like a bit like work, isn't it? If you go to work in an angry mood, you're going to have a bad day. You have to always go into work in a positive mood.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to be like...
That's right.
I see it that way.
That's right. And there have been times in my life when I had to act as if, that...
Oh yeah, some parties where you have to go to and you don't feel like it, you still have to smile and...
You have to put your best foot forward and make the effort. And often, having made the effort, instead of surrendering to your moods, I do not believe in surrendering to moods. And I think, certainly of having observed Mummy as well as other people who are obsessed with their sensations, that the way to hell is actually to be obsessed with your sensations. I'm not in a good mood. This one is this. I feel that. No. One needs to have a more elevated view of life. I feel a bit cheesy. Well, I'm going to make the effort. I'm still going to try. And that way you open up yourself to the possibilities. You're absolutely right. If you're in a bad mood and
It can be hard, but just you have to try, because it also can affect the people around you.
that's right. It can be hard, and sometimes it is hard, but life is not always easy. And anybody who thinks life is easy and life should be easy and that they are perfect and they know all and life should honor them by just flooding them with all good things. People like that are mentally ill and dumb. They're delusional because that's not what life is like. And on that note, honey, next question.
No worries. So for our next question today is from Kiki M. Question for Lady C. I read that Wallis Simpson, while she was still married to Ernest Simpson, but was having an affair with Prince of Wales, actually hired a tiara from Cartier when she attended the Duke of Kent's wedding to Princess Marina. Wouldn't renting a tiara have been incredibly tacky for a woman without a family heirloom tiara of her own to wear? I thought that buying herself a tiara isn't really the done thing. Is hiring one somehow different? I thank you in advance for any information you can give.
Well, that of course is a detail that is, first of all, yes, when she was Mrs. Ernest Simpson and she was asked to the Duke of Kent's wedding to Princess Marina, she did hire a tiara from Cartier. We know people who are married to pairs who go to the state opening of Parliament and they borrow or hire tiaras from places like Wartski as well, or Asprey's or Cartier or wherever. It's perfectly acceptable. It's always been acceptable. And in fact, all the jewelers have allowed people to borrow or hire tiaras over the decades. There is also absolutely nothing wrong with commissioning a jeweler to create a tiara for you. That's how tiaras came into existence. I will think, for instance, of the Boucheron tiara, which Maggie Greville had Boucheron commissioned for her. She left it to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and now Camilla wears it quite often. That's just one. Queen Mary's bandeau that Meghan Markle wore at her wedding was again commissioned. You know, loads of people commission tiaras. There's absolutely no reason why you cannot commission a tiara.
Also,
sorry?
Also friends lend each other.
Yes, because of course I've often lent friends tiaras. You know, if, for instance, when the King of Spain was here and was having a reception at the Spanish embassy, and the Queen was going to be there, one of Dima's godmothers, who's a princess and doesn't have a tiara, asked me if I could lend her my diamond tiara, which I did. And, you know, various friends of mine, their daughters have got married and they've sailed up the aisle with my tiaras. So it's perfectly the done thing. And of course, every single heirloom started out as a commission from a jeweler. And tiaras also are a relatively recent thing. They really came into their own in the 19th century. So we're really speaking about something that's effectively as we know it, not crowns, tiaras, 200 years old. So you have most tiaras do not date beyond 200 years. So I hope that answers the question. And I will also say, my dear, one should never be snobbish about jewelry. Just be grateful you have it or that you can wear it. And people who are snobbish about it, really, they should give me their jewelry instead. I'm being naughty. I'm being very naughty. Smack me.
So for our final question today is from Laura Good. Lady C, I have always been under the assumption that the palace did thorough background checks on potential spouses. It has always been alluded to that Harry is not the brightest bulb in the attic. If this is true, wouldn't it have behooved his handlers to have been very careful in allowing just anyone into his social circle? Why did the palace allow his marriage? It seems that protocol was much stricter in the past. I remember when they put a kibosh on the romance between Prince Andrew and Q Stark.
They certainly did put a kibosh on the romance of Prince Andrew and Q Stark. And Q Stark is a friend of mine. And she would have made an excellent, excellent Duchess of York. You know, people need to understand that you can't police an adult. Even royal adults have rights, have freedoms. They do also have responsibilities and restrictions, which everybody would have assumed that Harry would have been mindful of and would have therefore considered before he got involved with anybody. I mean, the palace and the courtiers and what is referred to as Harry's minders. I mean, he is, you know, never been declared a mental incompetent. So he has the liberty that any other presumably competent adult, male or female, has. You know, it's unrealistic to think that the palace would filter everybody's acquaintances and everybody's social circle to such an extent that they would keep out all possibility of anybody inappropriate entering the circle. You know, there does come a point when adults have to have enough responsibility to live up to the faith that is put in them by everybody around them. And yes, the palace does, if it's somebody very inappropriate, they will intervene. They did not intervene with Harry and Meghan because they did not regard Meghan as inappropriate. And also, Meghan and Harry were very quick off the mark. And if you read my book and discover the way Meghan very cleverly used her position publicly and privately to create a sense of obligation and protectiveness within Harry. And even then, you know, yes, the palace does do background checks on people, and they certainly did do a background check on Meghan, and they certainly knew that Meghan had had a very interesting past. It was certainly not something that that would have been a recommendation for her to become his wife. But, you know, who he wants to have an affair with is his business. You know, as Prince Philip said, you know, Harry's showgirl. And nobody necessarily thought that Harry was going to, you know, and that Meghan as well, that they were going to be so serious so quickly and so very firmly serious that, you know, reason ceased to prevail and passion is the thing that prevailed instead. Harry's passion for Meghan and Meghan's passion for not only Harry, but all Harry represents and would bring to the table for her. So, at that point, when the subject of marriage was being mooted, my understanding is that, in fact, before the subject of marriage was being mooted, when it became apparent that Harry was serious and that Meghan was brilliant at enticing Harry to be even more serious than he might otherwise have been inclined to be in the ordinary course of events with an ordinary relationship. Steps were taken to try to put the brakes on things, at least enough for Harry to start to engage the few brain cells that he has in his upper head. Well, I think the world by now must know that he was extremely resistant to any intervention whatsoever. Every single one of his friends who said, "Oh, Harry, you know, maybe go a little bit slower," each friend was thrown onto the scrap heap. When his brother recommended a bit of caution, he too was thrown onto the scrap heap. And there is little doubt that the dynamic of the relationship between Harry and Meghan was, "Oh, Harry, oh, H, you know, all your mean friends and your mean family are just criticizing poor little me so unfairly." Well, at that point, you know, Harry is an adult. He has not been declared mentally incompetent. Therefore, he has the right to marry whomever he pleases. And it's all there in my book, by the way. And when Harry proposed to the family that he intended to marry Meghan, all attempts to have caution and reason prevail were greeted by the most determined opposition on Harry's part. And my understanding is that they were made very aware of the fact that if they didn't allow Harry to marry Meghan, that they would end up being accused of racism. And at that point, they thought, well, it seems to be a done deal. He's determined to marry her. We are absolutely thrilled that she is a woman of color. She's very bright, and she had gone out of her way to lead everybody to believe that she intended to function within the royal family as a fully paid up member of the firm, and that she was going to be a part of the team because she was a team player. she made it absolutely clear, privately and even publicly. Just look at her engagement interview and listen to what she's saying. But that is reflective of what the message is that she gave to the family. So they thought, oh, well, she has had a very interesting past, but her attitude is fine. I mean, people were very concerned that she was so, that she is so dogmatic, and that she is so authoritarian, and that she's so headstrong and decisive and so overconfident. I've arrived! Clear the decks for me! I've arrived! Just everybody out of my way! I mean, there was very much reservation at that aspect of her personality. But people thought, well, it's something we'll just have to bear with. It's just her manner. They didn't realize, obviously, that it was more than just her manner, that her manner is reflective of her being. It's not a veneer, it's a reality. So they went along with it, rather than being accused of being racist. They used the one thing that indisputably was in her favor, and that was that she was a woman of color. Had Meghan been white, there is every likelihood that everybody would have moved heaven and earth to prevent that marriage. So she's really lucky that she had that bit of African heritage, because it's not very much either, but just enough for her to sail through, and for them to think, well, it's great. And then, of course, the public also thought, everybody I know thought, isn't it wonderful? Well, we now know how wonderful it was. And so, no, there was nothing anybody could do. And I think the situation was unique. I think Meghan is unique in many ways. Meghan's characteristics were unique. And I think that this was clearly something that nobody could have averted. And I think they tried, they failed, and as I say, had she not been mixed race, I think they would have succeeded. They would have seen her off. But because she was mixed race, they were terrified of being accused of being racist, and also they saw the benefit. And she is a physically attractive woman. And, she had many attributes. She was initially very glamorous, very superficially charming. She appeared to be enthusiastic. She led everybody to believe that she was going to be a team player and that she was embracing the role. Well, of course, as we now know, what she was embracing was her ability to dexterously maneuver the situation so that she could match the role. And because Meghan is ultimately the ace merchandiser. And I think that's about it. So thanks for the question. I hope this has answered it. Please keep the questions coming in. And our next episode, by popular demand, is going to cover Samantha's book. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you everybody, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you and goodbye.